Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to properly introduce you, but let me talk a little about our topic this afternoon. Now that the internet is more prominent than ever, how do we marry digital technology with our advocacy? How do we bring our efforts online? So in this interesting segment, we have here our dear guest, who was once described to me by a very close friend as a Renaissance person. Tama ba? Well, he is into everything, name it. Designing clothes, he's had a flower shop, he's had a wedding events company, he's a filmmaker, of course, was president of an ad agency, and he's an advocate as well. He is an advocate of a more active creative industry in the country. And so he will hopefully teach all of us here how we can bring our advocacies alive on social media. He did a check on I Can Serve's IG. But I will not steal your presentation. So Marlon Rivera, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marlon.
Maganda. Salamat, sis. Babating ko muna sa ating sariling salita. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is one I first heard of I Can Serve 19 years ago, 20 years ago, so from Cara. So I've been, helping in and out for the foundation. When I was asked to come, to give a talk, to share my points of view on social media and advocacy, of course I checked the I Can Serve IG, and it has 558 followers. Okay, nothing wrong with the small following, nothing wrong with numbers. Oprah only follows one person, right? That's Gail. So it's not bad to have one, to be following one. And we have such a thing as granular influence, which is about under 10,000 followers. So, so don't worry about it. What I want to share with you is my point of view as an interdisciplinary person. So I used to be in advertising as a creative person. I taught visual and verbal communication. Did social media. I'm an advocate for the creative industry in the Philippines. That's a lobby group. And the law was passed last year. I also am part of what's called PETA. So I'm chairman of the board of trustees it's a theater group. So that's PETA. I'm also the communications director of Actor. That's the Actors Guild of the Philippines. And a member of the DGPI, which is the Directors Guild of the Philippines. So all over the place, I've been all over the place, and I want to share with you something that persists in all of these interactions. In all of these places, in all these spaces, what persists. And that's what I want to talk about. What is social media? What is advocacy in social media? So advocacy in social media is it's like building a fire in the forest because it's dark and you want to bring everyone in for a storytelling idea. So you have a small fire in the forest while the whole forest is burning. Okay? That is social media. That's advocacy on social media. So I'll take you through a few ideas first, very quickly. You can interrupt anytime if you have questions. First is a definition of what advocacy is, obviously. What are the stages of advocacy, the classical ones. And then I'll talk about the operational definition of social media, a very simple definition of what social media is and what's happening to social media now. And then I will share with you the three concepts in social media that you need to get straight. What is management, what is marketing, and what is advocacy on social media. And I hope this can help you out. Now, why is social media? It's because everyone's on social media, right? In the Philippines, this is Philippine data. This is not, of course, global data. In the Philippines, we spend about 4.9 hours every day on social media. Most of that would be females, so mostly females. It's higher, it's skewed towards moms with kids, and then the males would follow after that. Now, 75% of engagement on social media in the Philippines is, of course, on Facebook, and the reason is because they want to connect. So the reason for social media in the Philippines is connection. Causes and politics is down at from 75 to about 45, so it's rather low, no? People want to talk about music. So what do people do on social media? They want to connect, especially moms in the Philippines. They want to post their pictures. They want to update people about their lives. So that's what we do on social media in the Philippines. During the pandemic, obviously, it became a shopping place, and that's how we engage on social media. Now, all the data that we have is from the last quarter of 2021, and when people are looking for information, they go to social media, right? They go to social media. But I want to give a caution on this one, okay? People don't go to social media or online to look for facts. People go to social media to look for confirmation, because that's the bias of the device, right? To say, to type, is this true? People never go to the social media and say, how do I prove myself to be wrong? No one does that, okay? You're looking for pain, okay? So people will search for, to confirm their ideas. As I say, truth is always about what? Truth is a mix of information plus poured into a shape called belief. So it's like water in a glass in the shape that you want, okay? So that's the truth, diba? That's a composited truth. So what do we do on social media? Okay, so first, let's define advocacy. Advocacy, I hope all of us are advocates, right? My only curiosity in this group is this, all over the world, is do we share the same beneficiary of the advocacy that we're doing? Because advocacy requires who's the beneficiary, right? Who benefits from the advocacy? Me, I hope it's the patient, because advocacy is about who's getting the blunt end of the stick, right? So we're all advocates, and advocacy is about what? It's about speaking for what is invisible and speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves, right? So that they can be in the places where their lives are determined or discussed, in the policy spaces, in the doctor's offices, in the pharma groups. So we are there to speak for them because they cannot speak for themselves. Of course, you can also advocate for yourself, right? But advocacy is simply that, right? It's like holding a torch in the dark and saying, look, I'm standing up for someone. That's advocacy. I have an idea, and I would like you to look at this. As I said, except that the whole forest is burning also. So everyone has an advocacy. Everyone has something to say. So that's advocacy. Now, there are classic stages of advocacy, right? There's education, meaning you want to get informed because information is critical, very important. The second bit is engagement. You want to bring people in, you want to bring people in. You want to engage the community. And then, of course, last is policy, right? You want to influence policy. Those three are the three hallmarks of advocacies. So, as I said, you want to learn, you want to engage, and then you want to influence policy. Now, the question is, that's offline. But how does it happen online? You get it? There's a difference in those two things, right? Magkaiba yun. So, for example, information and knowledge is critical because the deeper your knowledge is, the more you can speak for your causes or for the people you want to support. But on social media, it changes because information changes to emotion and stories. So it changes. So when you move from real life to social media, that education part changes because everything is emotional. No one really, no matter how big the decision is, no matter how high involvement the decision is, it's always emotional. We always decide emotionally, and then we walk that mile with the logic. We look for the data to support our feelings. Okay, so it's that. So it changes from knowledge should be more about stories now. Second bit that's education part. Engagement. Engagement in the traditional advocacy sense is like, we go out, we talk to the formal groups, we give them leaflets. We want to engage, especially the community. On social media, the difference is that there's no geography to these things, right? So you don't have to walk, the whole mile, because if you think of it as the Amazon basin, as the Amazon forest with the river, the tributaries, Everything is now connected. So the good thing about advocacy, that engagement part on social media is that it's not geography-based. You're not limited by space and time. The hard part is you have to build it. You have to build the community, okay? You have to build the engagement. I'll give you the metaphors on how to do this, so you can do this very quickly. So engagement is different on social media, and it needs to be maintained, right? The third part is policy. Now, in my experience with policy, lobbying for policy, it changes, it changes a bit. In real life, who are the policymakers, right? So, what's important to them? Sometimes in the creative industry, our stick is to argue for numbers, that we are this big economic force, that we are a sector. So we have to tell them, we're making 6.6 billion every year, and blah, blah, blah. We have about 60,000 people, and so this is like constituents, voters, and so on and so forth. So we have to translate our force into what they understand, right? So you have to find that same argument for when you do for policy for breast cancer. I know the law can be passed, but the implementation can suck, right? I mean, I don't know about the other countries, but in the Philippines, it's usually the case. So we have, it's signed, but the IRR is terrible, and you don't have implementation. Okay, so it depends on the fight. So on policy, it depends. But what's good about social media, when you move to social media on policy, is that when you're talking to lawmakers, you can apply the numbers. Then this is where the numbers happen. Like we have so many people, we can crucify them. It's actually nothing but the big gun. Okay, it's public shaming. Where there's money, and if you don't pass this law, you're dead if you don't do it. So the numbers can happen. So on social media, it changes a bit. If in real life, education, engagement, and policy influence can be done face to face, and of course you need to really look for people, right? I mean, go to them and talk to your senators and talk to your community leaders. On social media, it's different. The pressure is applied differently. The pressure is like, this is trial by face, okay, trial by popularity. It's quite different, and it can be done, and it can be done. Of course, you have to raise your numbers, right? You have to raise your numbers. Now, if that's the difference, I'll give you a metaphor on social media. My first advice is you have to hire an expert, right? You have to hire, it's someone's job. If it's not someone's job, if no one's getting paid, if no one gets fired, if it's not done, it will not be done. That is just the way of the world, okay? Volunteerism is wonderful, but volunteers are busy or, not that engaged. And you can only ask so much, right? You can only ask so much from volunteers. So it would be nice if it's someone's job. So hire an expert, okay? Hire an expert. It's easier that way. So first, let's talk about social media management. You've heard the word? Management. Management is the tending of your garden. So it's like, you have a little garden, backyard, and you look at the seeds. Whatever seeds you find, you plant again. As Cess would know how this is done. So it's the daily tending of the garden. And usually tending of the garden is quite simple. You put out the content, but it's not about you. The content is about what you're trying to cultivate, right? So when you plant, when you want pollinators, you don't plant, you think of the plants that the pollinators would like, right? It's a tending. You have to answer questions. When people talk to you, you have to interact. Social media is nothing. The social media was invented as Web 2.0, right? It's nothing but interaction. The moment the mechanism for interaction happened, the comment, the like button, the moment it happened, the moment people can talk back to you, the moment interaction was invented, social media was invented. That is social media. You can interact. So you can make the interaction happen. You can respond. You can talk to them. You can give them what they want. You can interact. It's as simple as tending a garden, right? Now, what is social media marketing? That's different. That's the paid portion of it. That is like having a garden, but you're buying what? Seedlings. You're buying potting soil from the garden center. Maybe you're paying for someone to come and do the irrigation and the watering of the plants. So it's a paid. If it's marketing, it's paid. You can actually pay for management, but you can do it yourself, but you have to be good at it. You have to be constant at it. Now, social media advocacy is different. Social media advocacy is what? It's like burning the forest. You get it? It's forest management. Meaning you have to look at everything that grows in that forest and say, how do I make more people care about what I care about? That is just advocacy, right? How do I bring more people in? So sometimes you engage the forestry, sometimes you, it's like, have you seen the footage on the fires, the forest fires of Australia? Do you know that there are about, every year, the forest the size of the whole Philippines, it's about 78, acres, 78 million acres, burns down every year. But no one cares about that. Every day, 200,000 acres are burnt from the forests of the world. But what really got out was the panda the koala that was burning, right? The koala that was saved by this, firefighter and this woman. They gave him water, and of course, he was bandaged in the end. That's what drives social media. So in the forest fire, sorry, no one cares about the big fires. People care about the small things in the forest, right? So that is social media, taking care of a forest and then burning the forest. Okay, that's how we have to burn the forest. Because, I came from an industry where we always approach our job with desperation, not humility, desperation. Because advertising, no one cares about us. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I will see more ads today. I will read the newspaper and look for more print ads. I will listen to more, radio commercials. No one does that. We're always defensive because no one cares about what we do. So what are we good? How did we train ourselves? We want to catch your attention. And thank God, because what do we have now? We have called an attention economy, right? So we have to catch people's attention. So that's what we've been trained to do. Okay, so that's why I say burn the forest. Because otherwise, if you don't burn the forest, if you don't set a fire, no one will pay attention, right? Because your life is more important than anyone else's life. Sorry, there's altruism. Believe you me, there's altruism. Science has proven that. But people really, care more about what's happening to them. The most important question to ask in social media is, so what do you think? How are you feeling today? Look at the Facebook prompt. What's on your mind? The most beautiful subject matter on social media is us. It's us. Me, you, diba? It's not about other people. The most shareable things on social media be three things. The thing that can make me look cool and funny, it can make me look smart, and it can make me look like I'm making a difference. So on social media, what do we do? When we have an advocacy, we don't ask them to solve the whole breast cancer problem. We have what's called the finite asks. We only ask for that small thing, right? ALS, you saw the ice bucket challenge, right? What is the only ask there? Do the ice bucket challenge. And the only termination point of that, it doesn't cure everything, but it makes people aware of the ALS, and of course, to raise funds for research, right? Me Too was not going to solve the whole misogyny problem, right? But it makes women come out and say, me too. I was abused, right? Look at mental health now. They're not saying we'll cure mental health. What is the only trick to the mental health advocacy these days? There's no trauma. It's okay to speak about it. So talking about it is the thing they're asking for, right? When there was a storm, of course, we do fundraising for storms in the Philippines. It cannot be storms for every year, for the whole year. We have to be, this is like Ulysses PH, solve that problem, okay? It's every storm. Every storm you have to ask ask for new things, new hashtags, new drives. So it has to be limited because people don't have the bandwidth for everything. I know you're trying to get people to help you end to end, from pre-diagnosis to survivorship, to the 23 to the 30-year survivorships of people. You want to take care of them. What do you do after diagnosis? What do you do after this? What do you do when this happens? What do you do if there's a recurrence? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And you want to help everyone along the line. But on social media, if you want to go there, you have to keep it small, personal, but you have to make the ask to be, when I say the ask, what are you asking for? Finite. Because you want to say, how can I make a difference, right? Je suis, whatever the new French thing is, Black Lives Matter, all these things. All these things are about boiling over. Lastly, I'm sorry to say this, but in the Philippines, we don't like to talk about heavy stuff. Like, oh my gosh, breast cancer. Oh my, I'm triggered. It's death. And blah blah blah. You're not gonna die yet, but you get it. I mean, it's an. I'm sorry to say this, but it's an. No, I think it's the highest. Is it the number one killer and number one cancer in the Philippines now? It is, right? So you get it. It's a problem that will not go away yet. I hope it goes away, but you get what I'm saying? It will always be there, and we'd rather sweep it under the rug, right? So it's hard to engage people and say, you know what? Why people don't help? I don't want to say this. You know, I don't help some people because it's a downer. Oh God, it's so sad, diba? So it doesn't. As long as it doesn't affect you personally, you don't want to get there, right? So we have to find tricks. So from here on, I've shown you the difference in advocacy. Yes, you can do advocacy, but you have to boil it something, burn something to burn the forest so people will pay attention. And you have to have that ask, that limited ask. And the way to build it is what? It's just stories. It's all about stories. It has to be a personal story. I'm sorry, but I can serve, you know, you're
What can you recommend for I Can Serve?
Oh, come, look at your IG feed. It looks like a bulletin board. I mean, okay. Look, okay. First. Okay, I would like to say congratulations because you know we've been doing it for so long. There's an offline task, right? But if you look at the social media, it looks like announcements. Do you want to engage with announcements? I mean, it's like, you know, a set of flyers, beautiful flyers. They're pale pink, you know, nice pastel colors, but they're just a wall of announcements. Someone gave us money. It's not engaging, right? Because what engages us again is going back to personal stories, right? It has to be personal.
Stories of survival.
Oh yes. There's I think breast cancer now. They have 88,000 followers. The midline is about 30. That's rethink breast cancer, right? If you look at their feed, they have more faces, journeys, like this is how I started. And I know sometimes it's exploitative to talk about people's misfortune and sadness, but that's what people are here for on social media. So, yeah, that's something you should think about. Do you have any questions before we lock down the prescriptions? I don't want to go I want to go descriptive first before I go to prescriptive ideas.
Well, at this point, let me bring in our reactor. Join us here, Tish. Well, Tish is a lifelong advocate for the rights of the world's of girls and women. She is also co-founder of the Women's World Wide Web, lead organizer of TEDx New York for 4 years. Also a poet and a writer. Hi, Tish. Stand na lang? Okay. O sige, before the prescription.
I like you are recovering as advertising person. It's interesting because
Oo nga, parang
Yeah.
our mics are...
voiceless and you didn't
The voiceless and the invisible. You want to... Hindi ko lang kasi kung safe na mag-share ng microphone. Natin alam, di ba? Kung ano mga... Ayan.
I think that when I'm just listening to what you're saying, one of the challenges is we're a bunch of hypocrites. We're a culture that is always nagmamalinis, it's always presenting the good side. And it's a challenge to make someone look at something that's so unpleasant, so real, so raw. There are a few things that come to mind. There's a scar project. There are these women on social media who bravely show their scars. And I don't know if that's going to appeal in the Philippines. But I think parang you're making me think of everything is a love story. Because the opposite, every feeling is some form of love. Galit na galit ka kasi you love because you care. And I think so that becomes this very nuanced mystery box. Everybody loves a woman, a mother, a sister, a lover, a partner. Everybody loves a woman's breasts, source of nourishment, source of pleasure, source of fashion. How do we make that something worth caring about, worth talking about, worth looking at, worth examining? And maybe, I hear from the breast cancer community that often what happens is you become reduced to your cancer. The wholeness of the person is lost. Even an oncologist wants to remove the breast, wants to just talk about the cancer, and often the wholeness of the person is forgotten. And perhaps this is such a good reminder that there is an entire person to which that breast belongs or belonged, which was messed up by cancer. And those are stories that people, maybe like accidents, will look at, no matter how difficult. And I don't know if that's the kind of reaction you were wanting, but I think, we've had our head in the sand about so many things as a people. We've endured so much. And I honestly feel that the counter to all this toxicity and divisiveness is in being creative, in elevating to something artful, artistic, and that transcends facts, that transcends science, and it is truly where unity will be found, not to be political. And I think part of what we now have to do is take pleasure in the privileges that we have, in every waking moment, in every day that we get, and see what we really want to fight for. And I think one point, I love the specificity, the finiteness. If it is about early detection, if it is about touch your boobs and find out what's there, then that is the thing that we get people to do. Magpahipo ka. That's something that might pick up, or diba? And then the rest of it, which is important, we can put it like a Trojan horse, I guess. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Just to react to the reaction, diba, everything is cultural. I know some people will be watching this from other countries, and it's going to be cultural. Culture is the operating system of anything and of the whole peoples, right? So what Chish was talking about is really cultural. Look at it. Look at it this way. We self-medicate. We don't go to the doctor. Our first line of defense is itulog, inuman ng tubig, or Vicks, or dasal, di ba? So, we don't like to go to the doctor. That's why Clusivol years ago had that bawal magkasakit. These are all insights we find in advertising, right? These are all advertising nuggets that we find. No? Filipinos don't want to go to the doctor. Culturally, because I think economically, because we feel that if we find out that something's wrong with us, it'll cost. It will cost us, diba? So we want to delay that truth, diba, about that. So that's one of them. The second bit is, of course, as you said, the hypocrisy, diba? The hypocrisy, the objectification. I'm sorry to all the women in the world and in the room, diba? The objectification of the woman and the sub-objectification of the breast, and it bastos, diba? So it prevents conversations. It prevents it's a police state. It's a police territory, right? It's a police territory. So it's hard to bring a lot of conversations around it. So that's also hard. So it's very cultural. It's very cultural. But what I like about what I Can Serve is doing, for example, in dibdibin mo, di ba? So there's a way into the language of how to talk about this. Because dibdib, obviously, is, Filipinos, you understand this, right? Dibdib is the chest, right? Dibdib. And dibdibin mo, it talks about the heart, take it to heart. So dibdibin mo is take it seriously, diba? Take it seriously, feel it, diba? So it's about this geography of where the cancer is, but it's also an attitude to taking it seriously. So ginagawa ng I Can Serve yan, diba? They're doing that right now. I Can Serve, dibdibin mo. So there's a way into the language. And the language, yung hipuan, go for gold, di ba? Don't examine, hipo, di ba? Lamasin mo kung kailangan. We have to, for me, I'm a writer as an advertising guy, I'm a writer by profession, a copywriter. So my field is language. And the more na naaamoy, the more you can smell the word, the better for us, right? Yung naaamoy mo yung salita, di ba? Because we like to be polite about it, di ba? We like to, euphemistic ang Pilipino, di ba? Pumanaw sa makabilang parlor, alam mo gano'n, yung mahina siya ngayon, di ba? We don't want to talk na namatay, na tigok, di ba? Di ba? Yung gano'n. So, we have, I think the battle, for me, because it's what I know, in social media, the battle is language. It's language. Kailangan namin mo yung anghit, di ba? Yung burnik ng salita, you get it? You have to smell that. Because if you can smell the word, then it's a redolent word, it's a resonant word, and it means something from us. And again, that's burning the forest, right? That's burning the feelings, di ba? Kasi no one pays attention. Walang kumita sabi ko sa nanay ko, walang kumita at walang reward ang silent suffering. Suffering is just that, suffering, okay? Sabihin mo, di ba? Wala yung parang titiisin ko na lang to. Yung nanay ko ganyan eh. Sakit ang ulo ko. Bakit yung nagsalita? Titiisin ko na lang to. Walang premyo sa nagtitiis, di ba? So you get it? So that's very cultural. I mean, I love it that you mentioned it because it is cultural. Our problem is also not just medical, economic, it's cultural. And social media is in the cultural space. We tell each other what? 50 stories a day. To ourselves, to each other, about each other. Marites, self-script, self-hate, self-loathing. We tell that many stories. The more we tell these stories to ourselves, the more we repeat them, the more they become our truths, and blah, blah, and so on and so forth. It's called scripts, right? It's called scripts. So, yeah, the culture has scripts, and we have to fight that.
Consistency is one of the things that you advocate and mention. So how often is, what do you think, for an advocate, how often should she put the message out there?
Well, the classical numbers would be at least 4 times a week. That's a picture post, and then 4 times a month of a reel. The video type, diba? So you have to have that. It has to be predictable time, because people follow you. If you have this predictability, then you follow, right? That is the weird thing about the internet. They want you to be predictable. They want you to be predictable. So, yeah, 4 and 4. In my mind, that's it, 4 times a week. Because that's what we do when we do contracts with, influencers, right? So, 4 times a week, a post, and then at least 4 times a month on the reel, on the video type. That's it. But you have to look at it every day. That's a predictable time. You can automate all of these things anyway. I said, hire an expert, automate it, diba? So those are the numbers. And if you want to talk a lot, go to Facebook, which is where the Filipinos are. If it's a picture, go to IG, right? If it's a link article, go to Twitter. So they serve different things. That's my only rule in my head. If I want to chat, blah, 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 I go to Facebook. If I want to put a picture or video, of course, video, meron pang TikTok, I go to IG. If it's a long article, it's a link, I go to, ironically, a short format called Twitter is best, can handle links better, articles better than Facebook would ever do. So, those are the things that you can try to do. But please look at your stuff every day, and talk to people.
And it's not about them, it's about who their audience is.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a dark cloud, but yes, it's about them. It's a courtship, right? Social media is always a courtship. People follow you because they tell you, because you inspire me. But, of course, it validates them, right? It inspires them. But so, it has to be about the followers also. Diba I told you at the start, I said, I come from a job where we always operate from a point of insecurity because no one cares about what we do. Sorry to say that. The second bit is that we're always targeted. We always target people. In the advocacy space, what I see is a lot of choirs talking to the choir. Choir members talking to the choir members. You really care about each other. You love each other. You're desperate. You're stuck together. You have no choice, right? Advocacy is asking those who don't care about us to care about us, meaning policy people, business people, brands. So that's to say, it has to be about the other.
So usually that's forgotten. It's like a conversation amongst themselves.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. Who would understand you more than you? You already do, right? That's a lived experience. Now, look at it this way. Money doesn't in fundraising. Of course, these are like data from 2016 or one of those. In fundraising, the most amount of money that you get doesn't come from individual people, right? it comes from fewer sources, fewer individuals. So ibig sabihin, what that means is that your Pareto law is like that, right? You get 80% of your funding from 20% of your funders. So you have to talk to people who are not necessarily a bleeding heart, like a lived experience sort of in this idea. So, I mean, of course, there are people who really care. I mean, there are people who really care, but usually they don't care.
So must you also hire an ad agency to do these things, to have a campaign for you?
No.
No.
I came from
Kasi
an
wala ka nun sa...
No, I mean, that was my bread and butter for 35 years, okay? So that I worked in an agency for that long. But you
Some
need...
do it pro bono.
Yeah, you can do it, but you have to pay someone. If no one gets fired, if the job is not done, it will never be done. Because a volunteer is like what? It's bandwidth. So parang, oh, I'm sorry, I'm tired today. Okay, I mean, you're gonna tell you work, diba? So what you do is, but I think you can hire specialists now. My advice, I was telling Cara, you can actually hire people from not within the Philippines. I'm sorry to say this, I'm not taking away jobs from the Filipinos, right? But you can hire some from New Zealand, from Australia, from Singapore. There are people who specialize in management and marketing, social media management marketing. And I've seen the contracts, it's quite good. It's 110,000 for a month. And it's very, very clear. KPIs are clear. They can repurpose your content. They can repost. It's a very clear science. So you can hire someone to do it for you. And, in the scheme of things, the returns are, quite good. I mean, there are good returns for social media because it can be leveraged as numbers. It starts to work when you start to talk to brands, when you start to talk to... Why shouldn't brands care about they should care about our costs, right? So you can hire someone. Not an agency, not necessarily.
Tish, chime in at any time, please.
Agency? Do you hire an agency person?
And if we have any questions, please. We'd love to. May you pass the mic? And Tish, please do chime in at any time.
I think in terms of engagement, it's pretty clear. Thank you so much for all the tips and techniques and all the background here. What about practical things, a practical objective? Let's say policy. You mentioned how to make things happen. So what's a good format then? Because at the end of the day, championing stories on overcoming adversities and sickness, that's ongoing, right? How to make things happen with policy that really then will address access, for example?
How do you work on policy? Okay, the question is, does it work on social media?
Yeah.
Okay, not everything works through social media. Like when we were doing creative.
For instance, as a concrete example, cite how you got the law on the creative industry
the
incentives.
creative
and-
industry bill of the
yes,
Philippines.
passed.
Of course, there's a lot of us, right? There's a whole bunch of people. It's a big machinery. But the strategy there was really to. It's a one-on-one. We had to close in on the people who are voting. So we're counting like.
Oh, you had that chart.
This is going like 24 senators. This is going up that way. Who's for it? Who's probably not into it? So it was like a basketball game. You strategize the court, and then you man to man. You have to go for one person each. So we have to find a person who connects to that person, and not necessarily another famous person.
So social media was not a factor.
No, social media, we did social media. We did social media. Social media says it's just crucifixion, right? It's the Calvary of the famous people. If they see it being hot, they'll say, oh, it's hot. Because if it's hot, then it's discussed, right? And of course, I'm loath to say this, but a lot of lawmakers also feel like, hey, I want a piece of that fame. I want a piece of that heat, right?
So it was more to trigger the interest
Yes.
of.
And
the
you bring in
legislature.
you bring in Lea Salonga because Lea Salonga sympathizes with the bill, right? I mean, Kenneth Kubompue, di ba? I mean, so you bring the big guns because I said, di ba? No one will know that you have this fire in the forest. If you're not burning the forest, right? I like that metaphor a lot, because if you have this little fire in the forest, then okay. But if there's a big fire in the forest and people say, oh my gosh, it's a big fire. Those are the famous people, the heavy engagement. Of course, you can also boost your, but it's really the viral things, the controversial, the push, the push, yung maamoy ng mga salita. That's what you try to do. That's what you try to do. So, I think on breast cancer, I think the problem is, if I may guess, I don't think the problem is policy. I think the problem is implementation. Get it? Because you can do things together, right? Communities are very important. You can come together. You can buy in bulk if you want, and so on and so forth. But you're always naka-gatekeep kayo, di ba? I mean, you get it? The IRR, the budgets is slashed somewhere else, di ba? If the funding is gone, you get it. So that's where the influence need to be pushed. Of course, it's not unique only to breast cancer. I mean, it's also the same for other the ailments, diba?
But it depends what their aim is. Is it awareness? Is it money is it increased government spending? Is it like you said it has to be finite.
Yep.
Clear.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for reminding me. Of course, that's an objective, right? That's called accountable thinking, right? Meaningful and accountable work. That's important. It's called strategic work, right? Meaning you know what it will do, and you know that you can measure it afterwards. That's what Tess is saying. Yes. So it depends on what you want to do. How do you find what do you need to do? You look at the whole system. It's called barriers and levers, meaning what gets in the way, what moves things along, and you say, in this kind of a mechanism, where can we put the pressure so it affects the whole system? Diba? Because you cannot apply it on the whole system, right? You have to find the barrier or the lever to have the best results, right? To have the biggest results. So I don't know if the barrier here for you is the barrier about, is it a cultural thing? I don't know. I think people know about breast cancer, right? Mm-hmm. People know that it also affects men. It also affects families. Breast cancer is not a woman disease. It's not a breast disease. It's a human disease. It's about the whole family, right? It's economics, right? Maybe it's about early screening. That's one. And you don't have to. It's not an all or nothing game, guys. Have an objective and then work at it, because you can only do it, like at a finite time, right? But have a finite asks. Ako, for example, what do you do when you're diagnosed? The first thing that happens to you. Cry. Yeah, diba? That's the moment that you need that's not pushed out into the media, right? There's early detection, but people don't want to have an early detection because you might detect something, and when I find out, what do I do, right? Because when you find out, everything changes, right? The knowledge, you'll never go back to how you came in through that experience, right? So the question is, what do you do when you first hear about it? Maybe there's a support system that I know, that if the moment I find out, 20 women would come to me, survivors, and everyone who would come to me and say, don't worry, this is what we will do. If someone can take away that, I can autopilot, that's an ask. That's a very specific ask, right? That moment of finding out, what do you do? The other point is, what do you do when you run out of resources? That's also a moment that you can talk about. That's an ask, right? The ask is, a recurring, when it comes back. When it comes back, what do you do when it comes back, right? You can be in remission for so long, but when it comes back, what do you do? So you can look at the whole journey as these things, and you can find what your asks are. I think we already asked everyone to help, right? I mean, there's practical, there's a whole administration of resources that you need when you have breast cancer, or any disease, any cancer for that matter. But what's unique to you are these things. So that's something I would like to make specific about. So thank you, Sis, for, we can build a strategy, keep in touch. We can build a strategy for this on social media, and we're all willing to help so that you can lock it down to that specific task.
I wonder if there are other experiences around ASEAN. Would you be able to share are there successful social media campaigns in our neighboring countries? I wonder. Anyhow, Tish? Yes, please. Sure, of course.
Hello. Hi, I'm Giselle from I Can Serve. So, my question is like, so hit that stage in our Facebook page that we're at 11,000 followers now, and it keeps growing. It's not something I'm happy about because the more followers we have, it means the more people are getting breast cancer and looking for information. But anyway, but the problem is kasi the algorithm of Facebook is so bad. Like kasi the more followers you get, the harder they make it for people to see your posts, diba? So we're like, I mean, we don't have a budget for advertising. So it's really just the volunteers. Please amplify the posts. Just post them, repost them, share them. But that's so inadequate then. So like, what's the best way to counter like the greed of the Facebook algorithm? By like, is there a way to hack the algorithm by harnessing our network of volunteers? Or is there no solution than to just pay for the ads?
Well, no, you can be selective with like who do you want to reach. Again, look at the mechanism, right? Who needs to hear your message that can make a difference? You get what I'm saying? I mean, is there a single lawmaker? Is there a single department head that needs to hear about this?
Okay.
And you can be intentional about it. Because I think you're just talking to the world, right? You're to the wind. And when you're talking to the wind, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. And you will be, and there's no way of hacking it.
Yeah. Okay. No. No,
there's 3 points.
No, case in point is right now. Like we're promoting every one of the sessions, diba? And the weeks leading up to this, we were posting and posting, and then the reach. Even though our numbers were going up, our followers were going up because of this event, the reach of each post was diminishing. So like,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's happening? Our numbers are going up, but our reach is getting low. So this is SEABCS right here. So case in point of how Facebook is bad.
Facebook
For
wants your
advocates,
money.
the algorithm is so
Facebook
bad.
is after your money.
Yeah.
That's just what's happening. They see that there's fire. They're like,
It is
"Ooh,
not a friend
send
of
it my
advocates,
way."
diba?
No, it's not.
Diba?
It's not. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to. I'm sorry to hear that. We can always strategize for this, but that's what I'm saying. Reach is paid for. You have to pay for reach. Even in classical advertising, reach and frequencies are paid and repeats and so on and so forth. So you have to pay for it. Now, look.
Is it going to be a wise expense, though?
No. For me, no. I mean, no. Personally, I don't think so. Because this is just a guess, right? This is a guess last. I think the people who will make a difference for the cause of breast cancer, the treatment, the end-to-end care and all of these things, is not somewhere on Facebook. You get it? I would raise my followers and whatever, I'd burn that whole Facebook forest. Just have the numbers for it. But I think who will make a difference here? It has to be a man-to-man talk. It has to be an offline thing. You have to find that person who will make a difference. Is it going to be a corporation? Is it going to be... remember, that's how it looks, huh? You think Obama's money came from everyone, the public? No. I mean, 70% came from, small identified funders, right? Do you think it'll come from the public? No, it usually comes from corporations. So that's the myth. That's the myth. So on that note, the same as the Creative Industry Bill, CIP bill, now we're into the freelance bill naman for the next round. The point is to find the person who will make a difference. Again, intentional, meaningful, accountable work. You don't have to talk to the wind. Sometimes you just need one person or a group, 2 people to make a difference.
And I think break it down into
Yeah.
campaigns with
Fast, yeah.
specific goals.
Yeah.
If it's about reach, then take advantage of other people who have wide reach. No person will say, I'm not going to allow you to tag me for breast cancer awareness. That's a shameful thing. No one will do that. Everyone's vain. Everyone wants to have compassion and appear to be compassionate. And I think, it depends on what you're after. And to your point, know when to shout to everyone, know when to
Lastly, the task is long. Offline, online, social media, non-social media, the task is long. It's long and hard. And this is the only thing I've learned, not from social media, but life in general. The people who can see the end from the start to finish and can break it down and say, today I will take care of this. Because it will lead me to this, and lead me to this, and lead me to this. So those who can chop the task and bring you to the end point are the ones that really matter, right? Are the ones who would make it work. Today, for me, it's just one thing, and then pick another thing. You cannot have everything, I'm sorry, but you cannot have everything. But you can have something today. Get it? You can win something. Small victories, and then move on. That's what you're doing, right? The same as you've lived day to day, strategically is the same. What needs to be done today? So cut it up, and it can be done.
Any model social media campaigns of advocacies that come to mind?
Meron bang advocacy sa Pilipinas?
What
sa
are your
ibang
thoughts
bansa o saan
about
man?
that IHA campaign?
The what? The
IHA, remember?
Iha? What? Do I remember
There were
that?
these young women, they felt it was ageist and sexist, that they were referred to as IHA. So they had this conversation, and I can't remember the hashtags.
See, we don't even remember.
Hindi na ako
See,
IHA.
we don't even remember, right?
Hindi na ako IHA.
But that's the problem with the Philippines, di ba? Meron lang, parang 2 bits lang yan.
I think Gabriela has had some.
Oh, yes. But that's not social media. That is a real organization, real live organization that's working, di ba? Offline and then online, di ba? That's different. But yung purely operating on the social media space, the Philippines forget, di ba? Ngayon, inaaway natin ngayon si Rahul Laurel sa Drag Race Philippines. Next Wednesday, iba nang usapan natin. In fact, by Friday, kahapon pa lang, antak ng pinag-uusapan, di ba? We don't remember these things so well. We have very short memories. Attention span, yes. That's why, cut it up. Intentional, accountable, meaningful work. Those 3 qualities must happen.
Again, intentional.
Intentional, meaningful,
Taking notes.
meaning it makes a difference, meaningful, and accountable. It can be measured. Those are the 3 things, for me, that's how to think about everything that you need to do. Meaning you want to do it because it will make a difference, and it can be measured in the end. That makes a big difference in everything you'll ever do in your life.
And what time frame is the apt for a good social media campaign or?
It depends on your objectives. It depends on really what you set out to do for the day. Because objectives can mutate naman eh. They can mutate, they can evolve over time. You can burn things today, but like tomorrow it will fade. But you can keep at it. So there's no working contracts are like monthly stuff, that's monthly to 6 months. They give a discount if you take the 6-month contract. But the objective, when is it going to be fulfilled? It's not,
Is Mick here? I was just thinking it's like a team. And I'm not a sports person. I was looking for Mick because he plays football. But every campaign has a role on the team. Some people are offensive, some people are defensive, some people are neutral. I think if you think about the different jobs that have to be done, what's the job of this? This one is going to shout. This is going to be whatever. This has to be a little offensive. I think that might, but it's all organized. It has intention. There's meaning. They know what the campaign knows what job it has. Because it's not all going to be rosy. And some of it, because there's so much denial, whether at the personal level or at the policy level. You have to shout a little bit, burn, some forest or 2,
We are down to our last, wrap up. No more questions from the floor? Okay, one more, and then I guess we'll ask for your parting
This is
shot,
not a
Marlon.
question. I am Feli Atienza of Cebu. I can serve Cebu. I was very touched with your talk when you said that we are I mean, we are one, no? We are one. And social media is very important. You see, I had cancer 4 months after the death of my husband. So I have 2 children who are in high school. No? So I'm alone. So I said, but I am 23 years survivor now. Thanks be to God. So when I see a cancer patient or a cancer survivor, I would like to tell everybody that this I Can Serve Foundation is a great social media because many or some of our sisters just ask us, can I join your group? And she is a cancer survivor. And now we are very many in the Cebu I Can Serve Foundation that includes even the whole of the Philippines. So it is so good to have a social media, even if you just shout out in your Facebook, somebody will ask and then you will feel, and I will tell her, you're not alone. We are on this together. God is good and we are healed in the name of the Lord. And even if we die now, but we are together in our own advocacy. Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for sharing. But I think Marlon said you must make other people who don't have cancer, who are not survivors,
Yeah.
care about what you're saying, right? Yung mga hindi na-cancer, dapat kasali pa rin sila.
Yeah.
Must always
Other
advocate together.
women, healthy women.
In our social media, there are some families who has cancer patient or survivor within their family. And they also ask us if they can join, the sister or a family can join us. Some of my friends, I added that to social media because they know that I'm a cancer survivor.
Thank you.
And I can serve, really make us happy, and I think live longer.
And imagine after 23 years, you're still involved. That
I'm
is the
69
mark.
years old, and I'm still active.
Ayan, meron nang mag-share ng story. May candidate na tayong isa.
Because stories really, stories
Yeah.
are more powerful than anything else. In fact, facts are just there as permission to believe the story. You get it? That's what we do in advertising, right? We promise you that you will have clean dishes, na happy ang asawa mo, because it has solo rocks. You get it? Or Actigen E. You get it? The molecules are just there to give you permission to believe. But what we're selling is the promise. It's always the promise. It's never the molecules. So, stories are very important. Humans are very important. And I think, masabi ko last, I know you want to burn the forest with social media and so on and so forth, but in the end, the best social media is really just this. Just this. Not social, just family media, whatever you want to call this. Because in the end, what we can really provide for each other is that the feeling that we are not alone. That what we're going through is, someone understands because someone's going through the same thing, right? So that's the best service if you can serve, if you can give service to each other, is that we are not alone. That yes, we're going to this together. That is the real social. That's the socios, not the neighbor part, the socios part, the people you can relate to. That's the family you've chosen. That's the social sphere you've chosen. So we are not alone. And if you're not alone, then things have meaning, right? So that's the most important social media you can build. So you don't have to burn the forest, but you can tend the garden. You can tend your personal little plot of land with your sage and your lavender and all these things, right? Because that's the function of social media in the end, that we are not so alone, right? That I hear you. 4 things of empathy. Empathy. Hey, familiar ako sa'yo. I see, we're the same. Second, hey, I know what you're going through. I feel you, sis. I feel you, di ba? 3, alam mo, ang galing mo. Sana all. Kasi I admire you, di ba? And last is, I get you because I know where you're coming from and you get me. Those 4 things for empathy is the most powerful thing on social media or in life in general. Right? The same. Ay, pareho tayo. Taga Cebu ka, ma'am. Ang papa na ako, taga Bantayan. Di ba? Taga Bantayan, Cebu. Di ba? So, we share something. I know what you're going. I feel you, sis. 69 ka na, active ka pa. Sana all, di ba? And that's the last. And now I get you, right? So those are the things that you must, in the end, it's all about that. It's all about this. It's all about this.
Thank you so much, Marlon, for bringing it down to what really matters, right? Thank you so much. Thank you also, Tish. And have a good day, everybody. Meron pang maraming talks, no? So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for listening to our conversation.